I used to roll my eyes at those videos promising that billionaire habits could change your life. Honestly, I thought it was all hype. Every time I saw a thumbnail with a guy waking up at 5 a.m. or holding a book about success, I just scrolled past. But there came a moment when I couldn't ignore how stuck I felt. I was working hard but always tired. Busy all the time, but nothing meaningful to show for it. I wasn't lazy. I was just lost in a cycle of trying to catch up with life. One night, I sat in silence after missing another deadline, staring at my screen. It hit me. Maybe something really needed to change. Not my job, not my phone, not my schedule. Me. So I picked 5 habits I kept seeing billionaires mention over and over again, ones I could actually follow without flipping my life upside down. I told myself, give it 30 days. That's it. I didn't expect miracles. I just needed direction. The first few days were rough. My body resisted every new routine. I felt awkward, out of place. But then small changes started to show up. My thoughts were clearer. My mornings were quieter. I had more control over how I started and ended my days. I wasn't rich, but I finally felt rich in purpose. And that was something new. It wasn't about pretending to be successful. It was about showing up differently. For myself. For my future. What shocked me most wasn't how these habits worked, but how much they revealed what I'd been avoiding all along. I didn't need a brand new life. I just needed better habits and the guts to follow through, even when it felt uncomfortable. I spent hours reading, watching, and listening to the way some of the most successful people in the world live their lives. Elon Musk, Oprah Winfrey, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett. People from completely different industries, yet their routines shared something in common. It wasn't just talent or ambition. It was structure. They weren't wasting time chasing every opportunity or reacting to every little thing. They had systems. And what really struck me wasn't how extraordinary their methods were. It was how simple they seemed. Not easy, but simple. Wake up early. Read consistently. Think in silence. Write things down. Move your body. These weren't fancy strategies. They were basic human behaviors, done with consistency and intention. And somehow, in all the noise of everyday life, I had lost track of those basics. There's something humbling about realizing that success often grows from quiet routines. It made me question what I'd been prioritizing. I had been chasing quick results, trying to multitask my way through stress, convincing myself that burnout was just part of the hustle. But these people weren't just working more. They were working with clarity. Every podcast I listened to, every book I read, the message was the same. Habits build identity. They weren't rich because they followed a magic formula. They became rich because they stuck to small things that most people overlook. I picked 5 habits that kept showing up again and again, and I committed to them daily. Not perfectly, but seriously. And honestly, that decision wasn't driven by inspiration. It came from exhaustion. I was tired of overthinking, tired of being tired. So instead of looking for a shortcut, I started looking at what actually works when life gets noisy. What I found wasn't hype. It was structure, and it changed everything about how I started my days. Waking up early used to sound impossible to me. I told myself I wasn't a morning person, that my mind worked better at night. But the truth was, I didn't have a routine. I had chaos. My morning started with stress, snoozing alarms, rushing to get ready, skipping breakfast, checking emails before brushing my teeth. It was all reaction. And that kind of start colored the rest of my day. I was tired, distracted, and already behind before I even opened my laptop. So I picked a time, 5 a.m., and committed to it for 30 days. No snooze, no excuses. The first few mornings were miserable. My body hated me. I walked around like a zombie and questioned the entire idea. But around day 6, something shifted. I started to appreciate the stillness. The sky was dark. The streets were silent. My phone didn't buzz. Nobody needed anything from me yet. It was just me, alone with my thoughts. That hour between 5 and 6 became mine. I used it to stretch, drink water, journal a bit, and plan out my day, not in a rigid way, but just to get clear on what actually mattered. It's strange how something as small as waking up earlier can create such a big mental shift. By the time the rest of the world started moving, I already felt grounded. I wasn't panicking about time. I had already taken care of myself. My morning stopped being chaotic. And more than anything, I stopped starting my day on someone else's terms. It's not just about gaining extra time. It's about starting with intention. That 1 hour alone helped me feel more in control, not just of my mornings, but of my life. That feeling changed everything. Reading used to feel like a luxury I couldn't afford. I told myself I didn't have time, that I'd get to it later, after work, after errands, after scrolling through my phone for just 5 minutes. Those 5 minutes always turned into an hour of distractions I didn't even enjoy. I started noticing how mentally drained I felt, not from work, but from overstimulation. My brain was always busy but never focused. I remembered hearing Warren Buffett read for hours a day. Bill Gates finishes nearly a book a week. It wasn't about the number of books. It was about the habit of sitting still and letting your thoughts slow down enough to absorb something meaningful. So I set a simple goal: 30 minutes of reading a day. No phone, no social media, just a physical book and silence. At first, it was hard. I'd reread the same paragraph 5 times. My brain was still wired to scroll. But slowly, something started to shift. My focus improved. I could sit longer, think clearer, and most surprisingly, I started making better decisions. Books on mindset, money, and personal stories gave me perspectives I never got from endless videos or posts. I began connecting the dots between what I read and how I lived. I noticed how my thoughts were no longer scattered. I had actual ideas to reflect on. It made conversations feel richer. My vocabulary expanded without me trying. The noise in my head softened, replaced by meaningful insight. What shocked me most wasn't the knowledge I gained, but the calm that came with it. That half hour became something I looked forward to. It was no longer just about learning. It was about pausing, thinking, growing slowly, one page at a time. And it changed how I showed up in my own life. Silence used to feel uncomfortable. Whenever things got quiet, I would instinctively reach for my phone or turn on music just to fill the space. Stillness felt unproductive, even pointless. But I started noticing how often my thoughts felt scattered. I couldn't focus. I reacted to things quickly, often with frustration. I kept hearing successful people talk about stillness, how meditation, or even a few minutes of quiet helped them make better decisions. Ray Dalio called it life-changing. Oprah swears by it. So I tried something that felt almost unnatural at first. I sat still for 10 minutes each morning. No phone, no music, no goals. Just silence. At first, it was chaos. My brain ran wild. I thought about emails, groceries, things I forgot to do. I wanted to quit, but I stayed with it. Every morning, I sat through the noise in my head. Slowly, I noticed small changes. I started observing my thoughts instead of chasing them. When something stressful happened later in the day, I didn't explode. I paused. I breathed. It was new. I wasn't trying to be zen or spiritual. I was just tired of feeling mentally pulled in every direction. Those 10 minutes became a space where I could reset. I started to feel less reactive and more aware how I spoke, how I listened, how I moved through my day. It wasn't about being calm all the time. It was about having a place inside me that wasn't constantly disturbed by everything outside. Stillness didn't make me lazy. It gave me more control. My mind stopped racing so much. And when it did race, I could slow it down. That felt powerful. Not in a loud, motivational way, but in a quiet, solid, steady kind of way that helped me stay grounded. I never thought writing down goals would matter. I assumed I could just keep everything in my head. My to-do list, my long-term plans, all of it stayed floating around in my mind until it got buried under stress, distractions, and daily noise. The problem wasn't that I didn't have goals. The problem was that I wasn't connected to them. I kept starting things and not finishing them. I'd feel motivated in the morning and lost by the afternoon. That's when I decided to try something different. Every night before going to bed, I opened a notebook and wrote 3 things. What I wanted tomorrow to feel like, one thing I was grateful for, and one sentence about the bigger future I was working toward. The first week, it felt forced. I repeated myself. Some nights I was too tired and barely wrote anything. But with time, it became something I looked forward to. It helped me offload the mental clutter. It made the next day feel less overwhelming. I woke up with a clearer sense of what mattered and why I was doing it. Writing my goals didn't magically make them happen, but it made me show up differently. I wasn't reacting to my day. I was shaping it, even in small ways. That one sentence about my future vision kept me anchored. Even when I had a rough day, I could look back and remind myself where I was headed. It turned vague dreams into daily direction. And when things started going right, I had it all written down. I could see the progress. I could feel the shift. The notebook became more than a habit. It became a space where I could remind myself who I wanted to be and give that version of me a real chance to exist. Exercise was never a priority for me. It always felt like something I should do, not something I actually wanted to do. I associated it with guilt, not growth. I'd tell myself I was too tired, too busy, or that I'd start next week. But the fatigue never left, and the stress kept building. I noticed that the most successful people I admired made movement part of their routine. Not for looks, but for energy, focus, and clarity. Richard Branson said staying active gives him at least 4 extra productive hours each day. That stuck with me. I wasn't aiming for a beach body or running marathons. I just wanted to stop feeling so sluggish and drained all the time. So I committed to moving my body for 30 minutes a day. No gym membership. No complicated routines. Some days it was just a walk around the block. Other days it was light stretching or a short home workout I found on YouTube. The change wasn't immediate, but it was noticeable. I started sleeping better. I woke up less foggy. My mood improved. I felt more patient, more alert. The heaviness I'd been carrying mentally started to lift. Slowly but surely, movement gave me structure. It reminded me that progress doesn't always look dramatic. It can be small, steady, and quiet. It also taught me discipline. Showing up on days I didn't feel like it gave me confidence in other areas of my life. I stopped making excuses for everything else. It was never about pushing harder or burning more calories. It was about showing myself that I could do hard things, even when no one was watching. And through that, I felt more grounded, more alive, not because I transformed my body, but because I started feeling present in it again. Something shifted toward the end of the 30 days. It was subtle at first, nothing loud or dramatic, but I could feel it. My days started to move with rhythm, not randomness. I wasn't forcing myself out of bed or battling through routines anymore. I wasn't searching for motivation every morning. I had something stronger, consistency. The effort that once felt heavy became a kind of flow. I knew what needed to be done, and I simply did it. No guilt, no overthinking. That alone felt like a win. My relationship with time changed too. I stopped feeling like I was chasing the day. I had more clarity on what mattered and what didn't. I said no more often. I stopped filling every free moment with distractions. I wasn't perfect, but I was present, more alert, more in control of how I responded to things. I didn't realize how much energy I had been wasting on mental clutter until that clutter began to clear. There was also something different about the way I saw myself. I no longer felt like someone trying to fix everything overnight. I felt like someone building, slowly but intentionally. The small wins started to stack. Getting up on time, finishing a book, handling stress without snapping. It added up. I could trust myself more. That voice in my head that always said, "You never finish what you start," got quieter. I wasn't rich. I didn't have it all figured out. But I had momentum. Real momentum. And for the first time in a long while, I wasn't just reacting to life. I was shaping it. That feeling of agency, of quiet confidence, was something I hadn't felt in years. And once I felt it, I didn't want to go back. Most people want big change, but they wait for the perfect timing. They wait to feel motivated, or for life to slow down, or for something external to give them a push. I used to do the same. I'd binge watch content about change, feeling inspired, but never actually doing anything different. Then one day, I picked one habit, just one, and promised myself I'd stick to it for a week. That's all, not a full lifestyle upgrade, just one consistent action. I started waking up earlier. Nothing dramatic, just 30 minutes before my usual time. It felt like such a small step, but it gave me something I hadn't felt in a while: control. When you repeat something every day, no matter how small, it shifts the way you think. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop negotiating with yourself. You just begin, and that small beginning turns into progress. Even when no one notices, even when it feels boring, something inside you starts to change. You stop doubting your ability to stick to things. You prove to yourself in real time that change doesn't have to be loud or extreme to matter. Choosing one habit lets you focus. It removes the pressure of perfection. Instead of failing 10 goals at once, you build one solid foundation. And once that habit sticks, it spills into everything else. You start feeling more capable. You start wanting better. Momentum builds slowly, but it builds. And once it does, it's hard to ignore. People think transformation requires suffering or giant effort. Sometimes it only takes 7 days of showing up for yourself. Not to impress anyone, not to post about it, but to feel what it's like to follow through. That feeling can light a fire